Hello everyone, and welcome back to FinOptiPod, the financially optimal podcast. And today is episode 2, and we are going to be talking about my financial freedom plan. Now, this is a pretty big deal, at least in my life, because, well, it's something I think about all the time, like every single day. This is the plan I am trying to execute on a long-term scale to reach financial freedom. Now, if you weren't here last time, we talked about mostly the stock market and different ways to go about investing, trying to talk about a little bit about fundamentals, some things about index fund investing, some things about stock picking, and also how to do it optimally by also saving taxes while you are investing to grow your wealth in the stock market. And today we'll touch a little bit on the stock market, but this financial freedom plan is going to really have two main factors, and that's going to be real estate and my business. Also, if once we're done talking about the financial freedom plan, if we still do have time at the end of the episode, I'll be checking my timer throughout. But if we do have time, I'll talk a little bit about like Elon Musk and some current events in the financial world. So be sure to stick till the end if you want to hear about that. But also, shout out to one person that, well, all I know is that at least one person listened to episode 1 on Apple Podcasts. So I don't really have all the stats, but I did see that there was one person who did listen, or at least one person that downloaded. So shout out to you. Thank you very much. And I hope you enjoyed that episode. This episode's pretty juicy. It's not, okay, so it's my plan. And this is something I created for myself. I created this plan 3 years ago. And it's kind of like a 10-year plan to retire early. You can think of it like that. That's not what I'm going for, but that's the way to think about it, because it's a plan that entails me being able to retire or basically being able to do whatever I please. Because at least for me, financial freedom just means that you don't have to worry about money anymore. Basically, you're covered and you can spend your time doing whatever you want, and you don't have like stress with the thought of, am I going to be able to cover like my groceries for next week or something like that. That financial freedom is just something that for me is my goal in the moment. And, over the next 5-10 years, that's what I want to reach. Because just like talking about how my brain works, like I really struggle with worrying about certain things, and I like to have a buffer. And so if I have a buffer of money where I don't have to worry about myself, that like frees up so much stress in day-to-day life. Like, for example, if I'm doing like a project or something and I need to build like a presentation or something, let's say even if it's not necessarily due for like 3 weeks or something, like we're talking about like school and whatnot, I still want to get like a good chunk done, maybe not in the first week, but in that second week, because I just struggle because I'm always thinking that in the back of my mind, okay, I still have this to do. But just like relieving that attention that financial freedom has in my brain is something that would make my life a whole lot easier, I think. And so we're about to talk about what this plan actually entails. Let's talk about how I formed this plan. So I actually formed it when I was 18, which was 3 years ago. I'm 21 right now. And it's pretty much hold true. I mean, there's a few tweaks here and there, obviously, because, well, I mean, I don't know how you're at 18, you kind of know what you want to do for the next 10 years and build this plan. I guess I got kind of lucky because I still look at this plan and I say, okay, it's pretty cool. Yeah, it was right after I really researched and just got so much knowledge in the world of finance, like credit, stocks, and real estate. And then I put it into this plan, and it basically revolves around real estate and my business. And so what do I mean by that? It means that these are the two pillars that will get me to my plan. One of them is more like a guaranteed route, and one of them is sort of a hit or miss type route. It could get me there faster if it pans out, but it doesn't have to necessarily even do well for the plan to be complete. Maybe if you're in the world of finance, maybe you're listening to this podcast and you hear a lot about financial independence, retire early, or FIRE for short. Oh, here's how you retire early. Here's how you do this, do that, whatever. I'm not necessarily in the market for retiring ever, really, if I'm being honest. If you look at my most recent YouTube video on my financial channel, I'll have it linked for audio listeners. I'll have it in the description. But I basically talked about how I want to continue working forever because I feel like there's always going to be issues in the world, and my very long-term life goals are more so like curated towards helping make the world a better place. The video is titled actually "How's Retirement?" Because it's kind of funny, like technically, on a technicality, maybe you could say I'm retired at the moment. I'm not working and I don't have to necessarily work if I don't ever want to, but that's not the point I'm trying to make. When it comes to long-term stuff, I do eventually want to get to this financial freedom in order to be able to devote my time and effort into helping people out, making the world a better place, philanthropy. I don't know exactly the things that are going to happen, but I just know I want to help change the world. Maybe, for example, like change the education system so that we focus on things that are more relevant, helping people actually get into careers faster. I'll touch on it a little bit, but if you do want to listen to more of like my retirement, you can be sure to check on that video once we're done here. This financial freedom plan is, like I said, 5 to 10 years maybe. So from when it started, like I guess 8 to 13 years, but now it's like 5 to 10 years is when I see it being completed. So it's not like a everything life goal type plan. It's literally, I envisioned that it would be like to my early 30s would be when it would be completed, maybe a little bit before then or after, give or take. But there's definitely things I do think about that are past that. But I try not to let, my mind wander on those sort of things because those are just so far out for me that the effort to actually think about those things when I could just be doing other things is, sometimes we get lost in the sauce a little bit. Sometimes it can be good to have some sort of plan to guide you on your way, but other times it's just like, just put your head down and work, just get rid of the distractions and whatnot. But I do have plenty of secret goals that no one knows about. Yes. Oh, yes, my master plan here. Yes. Let's talk about this. This is an important part. When is the plan completed? Now, the plan is completed when I have enough passive income to live, basically, and not really worry about myself. So, like you could say right now, I have enough passive income. I'm not truly there yet. I'm not really there technically, just because my expenses are so super low at the moment. It looks like maybe I'm kind of there, but no, I want to be able to also not worry about like if I need to do something for my health and whatnot. Like I'm an ultimate frisbee athlete. I want to play ultimate frisbee, maybe eventually professionally. That is what I want to do, but not this year. We'll see. I can try and play club this year, but that's beside the point. Basically, like if I wanted to get some chiropractic work done or get like a sports massage or something like that, I shouldn't be scared of paying that bill, because right now I'm basically like, I'm not going to buy anything. I'm not going to pay for anything extra. I'm going to buy food to eat, to consume, to survive, drink water, to survive, and my utilities like internet, water source, of course, and electricity. Those are things that I pay for and I willingly pay for right now. There are very few things that I would actually go above and beyond and say, okay, I'm going to pay for this just because I like it. Now, that's just not who I am. I don't like to buy things in general, especially if I think that it's actually just not useful. When I have more money and that enough passive income to do things like that actually like benefit me. Now, I'm not like gonna buy like certain things that are like overpriced and whatnot just because I can. That's like a slippery slope slope argument, like, oh, just because you have more money, that means you should spend more money. Well, that's not necessarily the case. There's some things that you just I would never buy just because I don't think it's worth it. Then there's other things where I would buy if I had the means and the ability to do that. So that's all to say, the plan is completed when my day-to-day expenses, my monthly expenses are covered through passive income, and we'll basically do the calculation because we're not close right now. We're not close. I'm not thinking about that. Like, what is the number? Like, eventually I'll figure out what is the number. Now, it will change, obviously, because in inflation or just like my habits of spending, maybe I spend like $50 less on groceries in 5 years. Maybe I spend $50 more. The financial freedom plan is real estate and my business. The real estate part of it is buying and creating a portfolio of rental properties, or maybe I could live in them first and then have them become rental properties. But basically a portfolio of properties that I'm going to eventually receive rent from those properties. So that is the income that can add up to that number that I'm searching for. Now let's just talk about the situation I'm in right now, or maybe not situation, maybe the first step of the plan that I have completed, which is the first house. And so I have bought my first house. I do have a video on that as well. This house I'm in right here, we're in the attic. Let's go. Video watchers, YouTube watchers, say hello to my attic if you've never seen it before. But anyways, this is a duplex, and I am making rental income and profiting right now because the rent I get from one unit actually more than pays for my mortgage costs. And so if I just keep implementing that method, each place either I move to, with duplexes, it's different because you can potentially get more rental income. Obviously, every single thing with real estate depends on your market, because a lot of markets, it's not even worth buying a house just because renting is maybe so much cheaper than actually buying, or you would need to save a lot more for a down payment and actually lower your overall mortgage amount. But I'm in the Detroit real estate market. I live in Detroit, the city of Detroit, not just like general area, like the actual city of Detroit. And it's really good for my method. I mean, if you want to look at some of the reasons I actually moved to Detroit, most of it was actually not really financial, but I mean, you look at the financials and you say, yes, 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 you say, yes, please, at least to the financial plan that I have, which is to also be able to work on my business, which one way to do that is having much lower cost of living, not having a housing payment. That obviously helps a whole lot. If you want me to talk about on the next episode of the podcast, the financial aspects that I see in the Detroit real estate market, and specifically why I decided to pull the trigger on Detroit and maybe what I see in the future of Detroit, just let me know in the comments on the YouTube video. Go over there if you're audio listeners, and I can start to talk about that because, I mean, let's face it, Detroit is a hot market. Maybe a lot of people don't know that. It's a market that has shot up, I don't know the exact numbers at this point, but at least 50% in a year. Over like pandemic year, and then it could be a little bit more at this point. But even if you're not interested in specifically like Detroit, it still applies to other places. Like Detroit is kind of similar to Cleveland and I would say Baltimore maybe, but it can apply to other places, just like the things I would talk about in that podcast episode if you want to see that. So I have my first house right now. We'll talk about what's next for the real estate portion of the plan, but let's also talk about the business side of the plan. So I want to specifically say that this does not necessarily have to succeed for my financial freedom plan to work. The real estate portion is kind of like the guaranteed part of it, because as long as I keep accumulating, profiting and making net income, not losing money, then I'm eventually going to be able to keep buying properties, because I'm just going to save up my money for down payments and then use it once I have enough, then just use it and then, repeat the process, rinse and repeat until we get to the completion mark, which we'll figure out later. And also you can look at appreciation, and that could help us out because let's say the current house I'm in appreciates like $30,000. I can maybe not use all of that or some of that, a portion of that. to use that as a down payment for my next property, and then that would get me started there, and that would just make the process go a little bit faster. But the saving up of a down payment is really just the baseline of where the plan is going. The business side of things, this is the thing. If my business pops off, because right now I'm not making any money from, what do I mean by my business? My financial coaching. So one-on-one coaching calls that I do. I'm just really bad at business, I would say. I don't know how to grow an audience. I don't know how to get clients and stuff like that. So I'm a little bit lost, you could say, but I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to work on the YouTube channel. I just started this podcast, and then all the other things that might go into the financial business. Maybe courses in the future, stuff like that. If that eventually pops off, the YouTube channel grows significantly and maybe a video goes viral, something like that, that obviously just makes the process of the financial freedom plan faster, because it means that, let's say it's the YouTube, like those old YouTube videos where I have never made a dollar on, they start to make money, and all of a sudden that becomes passive income. Obviously, I'd still continue to make new videos, but there would be a constant stream of income coming in. And now I don't expect the YouTube or the business to pop off, or to even be a decent income source for a little while. In the next year, if it starts to do well, that'd be cool, but I'm not expecting it. Like, it's not a necessary part of the plan. It's just icing on the cake, you could say. Now, after like 10 years of doing the business, if it hasn't worked out by then I must be the worst business person to ever walk the face of the planet, because I do believe it's at least a necessary or a viable business to have, considering what the service is. It's talking about finance, like literally teaching people about finances, how to improve their life overall, because obviously money is a huge part of life, and they don't teach this in school. In the US where I am, like, this is not something that's taught. Because it's not taught, there is a need for it. I just haven't figured out the recipe to reach out to people, because I also am, I guess, somewhat shy to say, oh yeah, I help people with finances. I'm sure that at the end of the day, they're like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Like, oh yeah, that's definitely a necessary thing or whatnot. Like, yeah, people have said that to me before, but I'm trying to figure it out. My real issue is that just not a lot of people have seen my YouTube channel. Not a lot of people have seen my, what my business actually is, or even understand what I'm doing. I think if a lot of people saw it, there would be a couple of people who would be really more interested and actually would want to do the one-on-one stuff. Like, I don't expect most people to do that. Like, if I was in the opposite position, like, I wouldn't do that, because I'm someone who's super independent and want to do, I don't want other people to help me, even though I know, like, logically, yeah, other people helping me, that's good. I don't know, my brain works weirdly, and that I want to challenge myself, and I think I just try to do things on my own, maybe to my fault in some instances. But I would say, like, probably, like, out of 100 people, maybe 1-2 people would be more seriously interested. 1,000 people, just like a small percentage of people would be more interested. I just need, I think, more eyes on the prize. So to recap, the business side of things is something that accelerates my financial freedom plan, but is not the concrete backbone that the real estate part of it is. And if you're listening to this and you're wondering, can you do this yourself, or maybe I should try and do this myself? Well, I would say, okay, cool. I'm happy to be inspiration for you, but also you have to consider that it's dependent on the real estate markets that you're in, because the average home price is around $375,000 in the US, and that's a mortgage around $3,000, let's say, and the average or the median rent is about like $1,200, maybe $1,500, somewhere in there. Let's say high 2000s for a mortgage and mid 1000s for rent, or low 2000s. That's already just a net negative. And so that's something you have to consider. I specifically did try and choose a place where there was a positive, and Detroit is one of those places. And I'm also lucky in Detroit that there's not a whole lot of vacancy. Storytime right here. It took me like 3 months to like get the other unit in my house ready to rent out. And once that came, like it was literally just a week process, I think, or maybe a week and a half or so. And the amount of people is actually insane. The amount of people looking for a property and actually contacted me were so insane. I don't remember exactly. Maybe 300 people. I just remember my email, like checking my email and seeing just the entire page just scrolling through the amount of people. I also felt bad because I eventually did respond to everyone, even if it was on like a backlog of a full day or two. But like the people who called me on my phone, like the first like 2 people who called me on the phone, I did respond to them. But then after a while, my voicemail got so many that I just couldn't, because I wanted to also reply to people in the order that they inquired to me. Well, for the voicemail, it's like you don't, like it's not in order of how they called you, so it's like backwards, and then I just, being someone who doesn't really like to call, especially for something like this, like calling can be good, like actually to have a real conversation with someone. But if you're just trying to inquire, like, oh, I'm interested in this property, it's not the best way to do it. I think sending a message, so like that's just a random thing. If you're looking for a house to rent, and they don't respond to you after you call, maybe just message them, or try different ways, like either text, call, email. I did it on Zillow, and Zillow got me a lot of eyes, and that's where most of the people came from. And they have a way to contact on there. So try different ways if you are looking for rental. For me, I was willing to move to the best possible place in order to actually implement this financial freedom plan. And because it seems, and it still seems like it should work out, like it's a decent plan. I guess you could tell me if you agree or not in the comments. People are saying it's the greatest plan to ever be planned. I don't know. Sound off in the comments. Let me know about that. Let's come down to the conclusion on the plan here. Plan is simple, even though it just took me like 37 hours to explain the whole thing. The plan is simple. Real estate. Keep buying real estate to keep growing your passive income while also working on your financial business to potentially make the process faster. I'm going to try and look into when I can buy my next property, because that's where I'm at right now. Like that's the next stage of the plan. That's the big picture sort of thing. It's been almost a year since I've bought my first property. It was back in June. So we're coming up on a year, and I want to buy another property this year. I just don't know if it can be done. I think it could be done if I get a little help from appreciation in this property. Maybe I can take some of the equity out and use it to go make a down payment somewhere else. That would be decent. It also depends on if you're gonna move into the property. If you're gonna move into it, you don't have to pay as much for a down payment, but also you have to move, and I have to make sure this other unit is ready to rent out, and I have to be like ready to actually move myself, which maybe I don't think I'm ready at the moment. Maybe by the end of the year, maybe I am. I don't know. We'll see. But honestly, I've got to do a lot of things. I've got to look into, what percentage of equity I have to keep in the house in order to do a refinance, and I gotta, oh gosh, there's so many things that I should have completed a long time ago, like months ago, and it's just like on the back burner, and it's just eating at me because every second, or not every second, but like a couple times a day, I just think about, oh yeah, well, I gotta do that. Oh man, yeah, we're fighting out here. I hope you are all fighting and trying to work your way out of any maybe bad situations, and trying to get to the glory land, the promised land, the freedom that that financial freedom. Also, let me know what kind of plans you have. Do you have, maybe I would assume it's not the exact same plan that I have, but what is some sort of financial goal you have? Leave in the comments if you want me to hear about that. And also, if you have any questions, again, this week we didn't get any viewer questions from last week, but I do have other topics to talk about at the end of this video here. But if we got viewer questions, I would answer them. I would love to answer them. So maybe next time we talk about rating your financial plan. So if you leave your financial plan, I'll rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, and I'll roast all of you, or just praise all of you because you're all financial gods. Okay, so we're actually deep into the podcast, so I just want to touch on a few more things. Let's talk about my financial freedom plan for the credit part of it. Now, my credit is good enough to not need any more buffing. You know, it's done. Like, I don't need to worry about credit. I need to just keep making my credit card payments, my mortgage payments, and it's going to be fine. There's not going to be any issues there. I believe it's like, I don't know. It's above 750. I think it might be like 780, 770, according to Credit Karma. I don't know exactly. For credit, it's also a thing where I do want to keep getting credit cards because those offer credit points. If you know anything about that, you can get like free travel, airline tickets, hotels, stuff like that. You keep accumulating more points, you can do that. And that's something I also want to do. I want to travel the world and like learn how other cultures operate, but I just want to learn about other cultures and see what's good about them, what's bad about them. And like with credit, yeah, once you're at 780, 770, you're fine. Because like what's gonna happen is credit gets you lower interest rates, like for buying a home or buying a car or whatever it may be. And at a certain point, it's just good, and you're just trusted by lenders, and that's about it. So with stocks are another thing. I have more money in stocks than real estate. So why aren't stocks at all really a part of my financial freedom plan? Well, because the real estate is the passive income. Yeah, there's passive income with like dividends, but when it comes to stocks, like they are kind of my buffer, my in between. So like in the past year, like I bought more stocks because I'm in between buying houses. I could either save or I can invest, and most of it I invest. I think there is merit to saving as well, especially if you have a target number that you're trying to save to. But I'm going to keep running with my IRAs to also save on taxes. And I'll consider, like, do I really, it is, because if stocks aren't really a huge part of my plan, like stocks are still good. I mean, they still get you money, but when am I going to actually use this money? Or maybe do I say I'm going to put less focus on stocks and more focus on the real estate to accomplish my plan, then go back to stocks. There's things to consider with the plan, but I will say thank you to stocks because they've helped me actually accelerate the plan already. Some of the stocks I picked early on in my career turned out pretty dang well and allowed me to be more ready to buy this first house than I otherwise would have been. And you look at the stock market right now, like that's kind of my other topics list. Like, it's a huge crash. There's opportunity to buy. I will say this, the SPY and like some of the index funds really haven't gone down a whole lot. So you look at Meta, which is Facebook basically, and since the beginning of the year, Facebook has been down 40%, which is kind of insane. And the index funds have been like down 12%. So that's shout out to my index funds and investors, because they're the real ones out here. The people trying to get rich quick and like pick the right stock and stuff. Like, there's like stock picking, there's an art to it, there's fundamentals to it. But then there's some people just like really just going in without having that knowledge and risking it all, when you can really just go index funds and you're just not going to lose a lot when the market is down. You're not going to gain as much when the market's up. Like, if you compare apples to apples, like Apple stock to an index fund, like, yeah, Apple stock will perform better, but also just by owning Apple stock, you're not diversified across many sectors and market caps and all of that. That's why I like to talk about index funds. This is definitely not financial advice, but I'm just saying, consider index funds if you're someone, well, I mean, I don't even know why I'm saying this. I talked about this on the last episode of the podcast. Didn't you listen to that one? Come on. But anyways, I just wanted to point that out because I was like, how are index funds doing? I pick stocks. I pick individual companies, but like I checked, and the index funds, I mean, they're just not as badly hurt as I am. I'm like down in the dumps. I'm like deeper than a submarine can go. I'm so far. I'm deep into the depths of the ocean, finding creatures that no one knew existed. That's where I am with my stock market portfolio. Now, I also, like, some of the things I need to do, research some more stocks to buy. I want to say some of the next videos might be about buying stocks and, like, should you buy this stock? And I'll do a little bit of analysis. Maybe stay tuned for that. We'll see what's going on there. So yeah, I just have a couple other topics. Inflation, guys. You want to talk inflation? Sheesh. 7% inflation in the past year? Dang, bro. Prices are going up. Can you tell? That's like kind of insane, 7%. At the end of the day, when you think about inflation, it's not going to deter my financial freedom plan. Like, usually inflation goes up 2%. And in a healthy economy, 2%, and that's fine. And that's why you want to invest rather than just keep your money in, like, under a mattress or in a savings account or something like that, just because it's going to lose value if it's not growing itself just because of how inflation works. But I just wanted to say that, like, 7% inflation, most since like late 1980s, I think is what I read. And the final topic of the day, this is a funny one, maybe, depending on your stance. This is Elon Musk, the space boy, the Tesla guy. Elon Musk, richest person in the world. He bought Twitter, which I was listening to people talking about this, and it's just like, for me, like, it literally does not matter. Some people really like Elon Musk. I generally like him. I don't. Now, other people some people say, like, he's just not funny, and it's like, oh, I guess I don't know if he's funny or not. From the clips I've seen of him, he's pretty funny. I mean, and he's smart. Obviously, he knows a lot. And I think he's doing some good things. Like, he's disrupting some industries, like energy and space, and talk about Mars for a second, electric cars, obviously. But he bought Twitter for $44 billion. That's kind of cool. I mean, if you could just buy Twitter, I mean, I literally don't use Twitter. So like, this has no effect on me. And for the most part, probably not much is going to change with Twitter. Like, I saw that he wanted to open up the algorithm and, like, actually make it transparent. So that's good. But other than that, I mean, is anything really going to happen? I don't know. You tell me. Elon Musk, you tell me. I don't know. But I just wanted to bring that up because people are talking about it. And I'm just like, oh, I didn't even know it was real at first. I saw that he had, like, somewhere I saw that there's a tweet about him doing that. And then, like, after it happened, like 3 days after it happened, I'm like, oh wait, he actually did it. It's just anything Elon Musk does is just clickbait, because he's just such a popular guy. And in the financial community, I think he's looked upon more highly than not. I think. I mean, there's a lot of haters out there still, of course, but that's with anything. And secret sauce, like the secret outcome of Elon Musk buying Twitter, even though this already was kind of a thing. Jack Dorsey, former CEO and, like, founder of Twitter, and also founder of Square, who owns, like, Cash App. One of the things about him and in talking about Square is that he was, like, CEO of both Square and Twitter. And people were like, oh, well, then he's not going to, put enough effort into one or the other to grow them a lot. And, people were like, oh, well, Square, even though Square popped off in, like, the past, 1-2 years, something like that, in terms of, like, stock price. But that means he's all in on Square now. I was also reading he's, like, the blockhead is what he calls himself, and he's got the CFO, the master Bitcoin person. I don't know. He's into crypto, so I rarely talk about crypto. So there for all the crypto Andes out there, there's your shout out. He'll have more focus on that. I think he already did step down as CEO of Twitter at the end of 2021. He's still on the board. He might be leaving the board I think I saw maybe a year. Don't quote me on this. Make sure check your facts. Wow, that's an episode. You got inside my brain today. You saw a little bit of what I have, what I think about all the time, my financial freedom plan, and share your thoughts about it, because you don't have to do this plan. If it inspires you to create a plan, that's cool. I like that. Let me know. And then also let me know if you have any questions for me to answer on the next episode. We might be talking about like Detroit real estate and just where I see myself, because I'm also probably going to eventually move from Detroit, and what are my thoughts on buying and holding properties in different either states, maybe even countries. Hello. Okay. There's also like you could leave, if you are listening, you could leave reviews. I think you could download the episode, I think, or that gives the show a bit more exposure and maybe works with algorithms better. And if you are watching on YouTube, or if you're not, come over to the YouTube video, hit the thumbs up if you did enjoy the conversation we had today. We talk about finance stuff, and we try to help each other get on the road and reach financial freedom. That's what we do on this channel. Schools don't teach it, so I will. So if that's interesting, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you are notified when we do post a new video. I think I've gone on long enough. I think it's time to say I hope you have a FinOptimal day, and I really do appreciate you watching. I hope to see you next time. Peace out, my friends.